get started in a couple of minutes, but can I have hands raised if you are in high school, elementary, both, everything?
PowerLibrary.
Alright, so I'll probably focus a little bit more on the high school stuff, so we have a few more there. I'll start with introducing myself, and then if anybody straggles in, we can work with that. I am Erin Joyce. I'm a district consultant librarian. Basically what that is like I'm the IU, but for public libraries. So I do a lot of work with teaching and training the public libraries, so not as familiar with how it might be set up in the school, but the databases will be the same. I am based in Oil City, which is in Venango County, about an hour north of Pittsburgh here. And I did upload both the slides and a handout to the P&C site, so that if there's a lot of sort of a data dump in the handout, so you can see what you can refer back to it later if you need to. For those of you who might not know what PowerLibrary is a project through the Office of Commonwealth Libraries, which is a department in the Department of Education, a bureau of the Department of Education. It is funded through LSTA funds, and it is all electronic databases, primarily for the K-12 audience, so there are some that are very applicable for college and lifelong learning. PowerLibrary is funded through a RFP process, so most of the databases are going to be all from the same company, which is very helpful when it comes to learning how to use them. When you're trying to tell your students how to use them, the interfaces are going to be pretty consistent, both across the databases and also from as you're moving from kindergarten up through 12th grade. So the majority of resources in PowerLibrary are going to be Gale resources. This is a change. 2 years ago, they had done the RFP process and moved from EBSCO to Gale. So if you were unfamiliar or if they looked new, that is because they are Gale. In my personal opinion, the Gale databases are far more user-friendly and easier for the students to access. They're just better. They're more expensive typically, but they're better. This is just a list of all of the Gale resources. I'm used to walking around, so I'm trying to stay with the mic, but if I fade in and out, just let me know. The only one on here that might not be recommended is the GVRL. This is the Gale Virtual Reference Library. That's going to depend a lot on whether your school or public library also has this resource. So there might be things that pop up when I show you this that won't show up in yours because my library also subscribes to that and they buy reference materials that way. And then these are the other PowerLibrary resources. Currently there are still some EBSCO ones. There's the Access PA database, BookFlix, TrueFlix, AP Images, Auto Repair Source, and Small Engine Repair are all from different companies. When you're looking for PowerLibrary, there are 3 portals that you can go through for PowerLibrary. There's the standard PowerLibrary portal, and that's the little Pennsylvania sign. That has everything in it. They have also created 2 portals, one for kids and one for teens. Those are relatively new. The kids debuted last year and the teens debuted this year. So the PowerLibrary one is very straightforward. It looks like this, pretty simple. The Power Kids strips everything out that isn't going to be above an elementary school level. So it really streamlines what they're able to do and look at. That clicking sound really annoys me, so if it annoys anybody else, I'll turn this off. The Power Teens takes it and makes it a more teen-friendly resource. Does take out the info bits kids, but it leaves the majority of the resources on there. I'm going to be working through the main library portal today, but I did want to show you what they look like. The first resource I wanted to draw your attention to is Pennsylvania Job Resources. This is a resource curated by the state. It has the Career Link website linked in there. It has the Pennsylvania Career Guide, the FIA Created Educational Planner, the Occupational Outlook Handbook, and any Pennsylvania workforce statistics. Basically, a lot of the stuff from the Department of Labor, the reports and stuff are all going to be in this portal. CyberSmarts, it's an interactive ebook collection. There's CyberSmarts and Teen CyberSmarts. There's the topics, there's cyberbullying. If I'm being totally honest, this is outdated. I want to say I think they were all published in 2004 to 2008. So the kids ones may have some use. They're worth looking at if you're doing a bullying curriculum in particular, but the social media especially is very outdated. EBSCO eBooks is collection full-text fiction and nonfiction titles, primarily nonfiction, education, reference, and science. You can download them for offline viewing. The Gale Virtual Reference Library is reference materials. The PA PowerLibrary has 20 titles in there. Depending on what subject you're teaching, they're going to look a little different. However, if your public library also subscribes to GBRL, they will merge the databases if you log in through the public library site. One of my personal favorites, books and authors. Those of you who are librarians may have heard of, it just went away from me. This is how you can find books that you want to read. And there's another database out there that's more famous that does that, but the name just shoots straight out of my brain. Novelist, yes. This is Gail's Novelist. You can search by the genre, by the title, by the author. You can get lists of books by all of the authors. You can search by genre. It's a great resource for book clubs, and it's a great resource for literature classes, especially if you're doing a lit circle. I will go in more in depth to that one. Contemporary authors, if y'all might remember those old blue volumes, look just like that logo there on the side, has all the biographies of novelists, poets, playwrights, nonfiction. Lit Finder is a great source for finding primary source databases, particularly those in the public domain. So these are all going to be able to be used by your whole class at the same time. You can search by person, by work, and by topic finder. I did appreciate there are search by ethnicity, by gender, by nationality, so depending on what your students are looking for. Most of the stuff is going to be public domain though, not going to be what you're going to find in your public library. Another very important one, if you have not heard of it, is AP Images. These are royalty-free photographs done by the Associated Press. So if you want more current event stock photos, you're not going to be able to find them through Pixabay or something like that. AP Images is a great place to go. They're also a great place for kids doing reports. They can find pictures of the country, things like that. They are royalty-free, copyright as long as you cite the AP Images. They are clear with copyright. One for the teachers, the Educator's Reference Complete. I have fond memories of this one from student teaching in college. So that one's not so much for the students, but it's for you. There is Academic One file. This is primarily going to be for your advanced high school to AP to college, primarily directed towards higher education. So it's similar to the other databases, but it's going to be more directed content-wise to your college level. These are also two of my favorites, Bookflix and Truthflix. Have anybody heard of these two?
Love them.
Awesome, love them. Bookflix is pre-K through second. What it does is it pairs a published ebook that you can read through, and there's either a read along, or they can read it, or they can click on the words and go through it, and they pair it with a video of a fiction. So the video is a fiction book. The Weston Woods videos are the primary source of them, if you're not familiar with those. And then the nonfiction is what they read through. It has puzzles and fact-fixing quizzes and more. They're going to be all Scholastic titles. This is a Scholastic database. So there's classic ones and there's new ones. They're all excellent. TrueFlix is more 2nd through 5th focused. Depending on your subject, you might be able to go a little bit into middle school. It is all nonfiction. If you're familiar with the Scholastic TrueFlix series, that's what it's based on. So it'll have a little video about the topic, and then you'll be able to actually read the ebook of the book. The only drawback to these two databases is that they're not always available offline. Like, you can't download them on your computer and watch them later. You have to be connected to the internet. With TrueFlix too, they do have further explorations. For the science ones, there's science fair project ideas. It's a great resource if you're working with or if you have any cyber-schooled students or homeschooling kind of situations for a period. This is a great way, TrueFlix, to expand their learning. Kids Infobits is the K309 database. It's very, very, very visual. They are all labeled by content level. This has varied a couple of times over the year, in the last couple of years. So this is currently what it looks like, what the levels look like. There is some Lexile determination. You can find out what that is if you go into the help, but I have found that the Lexile is not consistent across databases. So just sort of keeping that pre-K through first is probably going to be level 1. Level 2 is first, second. So they kind of correlate more to grade levels. There is a Lexile behind it, but like I said, that's been changing a couple of times over the past couple of years, so I wouldn't count on that one. It does allow you to sort by content type, so you have books, articles, pictures, news. The InfoTrack Student Edition is primarily periodical resources, mostly high school. So it's going to be the transitional database from the middle school into the college level academic search. This is probably the one that has the most topics in PowerLibrary. I will get into this when I show you this. They have a topic finder in these databases that is fabulous. If you have kids who need to develop their own research papers, they can type in that first, like you have to do, I had a teacher who made us do a report on a World War II battle. That's a very, very broad topic. This topic finder can help them narrow it down to find the specific thing they want to. The InfoTrack newsstand is all newspapers, so it is fairly up to date. It's updated daily, so you maybe are a day behind. Very helpful for position papers, any current events classes. The Science Reference Center is an EBSCO database. All the science, obviously. Research in Context is the middle school. It does have a couple of names. I will find too that they have been changing the names of some of these databases. They're rebranding a little bit. So when I caught them, I tried to put them on there. So in PowerLibrary in the list, it might be called Gale in Context Middle School. But the logo is still the Research in Context. So I left the Research in Context there, but prepared that you may be seeing that name change. It is going to be your middle school group. It bridges Infobits up to the InfoTrack. It has primary resources, creative works, reference, news, periodicals, biographies. That's kind of what it looks like. You can really filter your results. That is exceptionally helpful if you're trying to narrow down your topics, because you can do by topic type, so you can search full text articles or books or only newspaper articles. You can do by content level. And as you can see, the content levels are still level 1, 2, 3, 4, but they do not correlate with the 1, 2, 3, 4 that is in InfoTrack or in Kids Infobits. You can search by publication title in this database, which I found helpful, and publication date. Sometimes you find when you do the searches, the first one that pops up is from the 80s, but you need more detailed information. So you can narrow it down very easily. Business Insights Essentials is another Gale one. It does have some of the cross-database tools, but doesn't have all of them. Mostly journals, so you're looking at probably a monthly update. A Health and Wellness Center, which I do recommend this one over the Science Reference Center. Diseases, disorders, therapies, current hot topics. Did have some information on the novel coronavirus. This is another one that has been changing its name. So you'll see it some places as greener and some places in environmental studies. The logo has been the environmental studies, but it's been called greener for a while. So this is anything about sustainability, the environment, climate change. It is middle school and up probably. General One File is general purpose search engine. Probably middle school and up, upper elementary, depending on it is. Does have a lot of the same cross-database tools that I'll be showing you. It does have some more adult interest when you're browsing by subject category. So this is going to be one that might also appeal to parents if you have them researching for something. They have Gale topic collections. They're also known as InfoTrack collections, so depending on which version of PowerLibrary is populating through, you may see them called InfoTrack or Gale topic. Sometimes the name changes don't always get through all of the different portals. You don't necessarily have to search these individually. There are a bunch of them, but they are in Academic One File, General One File, InfoTrack Newsstand, and Power Search. So these can help students who want to sort of narrow down by topic, but if they need the broader topic, it is already being searched if they're using one of the other databases. This is my favorite tool, and this is going to be what you keep in your back pocket. The Power Search brings together all of the periodical references and the Gale Virtual Reference Library into one search platform. It doesn't search all of the Gale resources, but it does search most of them. You can choose the Power Search mix. I generally just search them all. These are the databases that are in Power Search. Oh, and I didn't pull that out, but we do have the Informe Academico, fully Spanish language database. So I didn't pull it out because I can't read Spanish. I'm not going to feel qualified to teach that, but it is available in there. So if you use the Power Search, that is going to be your best tool for searching the widest variety fastest. This is just a little slide, and like I said before, these are on the P&C website, so the handouts and the slides are there, because I know this is going to be hard to read. Just sort of a little bit of a flowchart of what databases to use when you're looking for what information. It is out of date, obviously, because the greener logo is still there instead of the environmental studies. I put this in the database too. This is the database crosswalk. If you're familiar with the EBSCO resources, these are the Gale equivalents. I'm just going to hop on over to our e-resources. When you have the e-resources with PowerLibrary, I think I'll have to log in. How many of you have it IP authenticated at your school that you know? Okay. How many of you are using where students have to type in their ID, or they're using their public library card? If you have a static IP address, you can contact PowerLibrary, tell them your school name and a static IP range, and they will set it up so that your students don't have to log in every time when they're on campus, at least, and then they only have to log in if they're off campus.
Trick with that is if they're not logged in, it doesn't save their search.
Yes, it doesn't save their search. I'm from the public side, so I don't recommend them to save the search with their logging in. I recommend that they send it to the Google Drive or the OneDrive. So when I say that, I'm going to tell you to just have them do the Google Drive or send it to email rather than trying to save a search, because the chances of you screwing it up or then losing their library card number, even though it should be in their wallet, very high. But yes, if you have the PowerLibrary automatically logging in, that can save some frustration and time. It does have the drawback of not saving the information. Anybody in Pennsylvania is able to use these resources. So even if by chance you're in an area where your school does not participate in PowerLibrary, if you're a private school, or if your public library has what we call unserved areas nearby, they can apply for an e-card on here. They do not have to. They should be able to access your school PowerLibrary from their house. They do not have to be in your school, even if you have the IP address set up. There will be a secondary login that they can use the barcodes or your student IDs that you send them. Or they can apply for an e-card if they're in a totally unserved area. FYI, for your information, how you set up PowerLibrary to log in, this is not going to be a SIP2 authentication type of situation. So they don't actually have to have a valid library card number, and don't tell them I tell you to do this. What it is, when you set up your account with PowerLibrary, you tell them how many digits the library card numbers you hand out are and what the prefix is, and typically the prefix is the 5 digits. If you have that first 5 digits right and 14 digits, it says, yay, hallelujah. So I don't know how close your partnerships are with public libraries. If you know that library card number, you can type in 26340 and however many zeros, I think it's 9 zeros to get it in, and it will accept it. Drawback is can't save the search if they're not logged in that way, but it will get you in faster. So they can all use the same library card number too. They don't have to all have different library card numbers. How many of you have seen AP Images before? The database? Okay, I'm going to skip that one. How about Auto Repair Source? Auto Repair Source, this is a great one to partner with your tech institutes on. Drawback to have it living in a different library is that PowerLibrary card doesn't work. You can also, if you don't have a specific link for your library, you won't be able to track your statistics, but if you go to powerlibrary.org, it takes you to the same place. So the Auto Repair Reference Center, and this is also a great one to talk to parents about. You can put in your year, make, model, and engine. And it gives you all of the safety information, all of the repair information for that resource. One of the especially helpful things is it does have the codes. So if you're throwing a code and you have one of those code readers, you can put it into this database, find out what it is. So this database is a great resource to share with your tech center and to point out when you're at home, or open houses, things like that. They also have a small engine repair, which I don't know about you guys, but where I live, that includes tractors and snowmobiles and ATVs and chainsaws and lawnmowers. So if you're in, particularly in a rural area, make sure to highlight that small business repair. My favorite database is Books and Authors. Have any of you seen this one before? They did a major change in July and really updated it a lot. So if you've seen it before and haven't looked at it since then, it's going to look different. You can see you can select from some genres over here. You can browse them. You can do an author search. When you do the book list, these are not as updated as I would like them to be sometimes, but all of the award winners are here, so that can be helpful. Librarian favorites, expert picks. They pull some of these old book group picks and so they can be helpful for displays and things. If you're searching for a title, search it in, and then over here, you can filter your results by audience level, and by that they're saying children's or young adult, by author, by time period, by genre. When they say character, they typically are talking a character type. By subject. Book category means fiction or nonfiction. Or you can do a search within to narrow it down. It has marked whether it's an award winner or not on the initial search page and then afterwards. And this is where it can get very helpful. On the right, they have all of the tags for it, so to speak. You can click on those and find other books that are going to be similar. So you can find other books set in Pennsylvania or in Philadelphia. Obviously, a lot of these are adult, so you could say, oh, I need children's books set in Philadelphia. Hit apply. So this is a really good way of getting you a good list by genre, especially if you're doing like a lit circle, you're looking for realistic fiction about a certain theme. This is one of the best resources out there for that. You guys said you're pretty familiar with BookFlix. Are you guys familiar with Access PA? Librarians in the room, I hope. Okay. Access PA, just a brief look, this is all of the public libraries in Pennsylvania, and most of the schools. This is what they're using to interlibrary loan you books, but you can search by titles and see how many of them are across the state. And not just books, this is also DVDs, audiobooks, things like that. So your students can use this, and then they can go to their public library or bring it into your school and say, hey, I would like an interlibrary loan for this, but this gives you an idea of how popular some things are, how many things are out there. I'm going to skip on down to the Kids Info Bits. This is really the only early elementary database we have. The Books and Authors does go down to the picture book level, but not as well as it does chapter books and up. So this is what the Info Bits database looks like. You can just do a random search, or they can click on the picture and narrow it down. So that's going to depend on your grade level and the comfort your kids have. When you click on the broader topic, it will give you the subtopics, and you can narrow down from there. So there's all the different dinosaurs. Helpful little thing, they almost all have.
Dino Nickus.
Did you guys hear that?
Dino Nickus.
But they all have the little...
Iguanodon.
So if they're not sure, they can click on that little speaker and that can point them in the direction. So once you click on the topic that you want, it brings up what they have. They have the books, they have the pictures, and they have the magazines. Any questions on that? Or anything I've covered so far? In my experience, they do seem to cluster the topics, and I'm not sure if that's just reflection of what's available out there or it's reflection of the topics and how they are, but you'll see like the books are all level 2, but the magazines are all level 3. So you may have some trouble finding the right thing for the right child if they're not more advanced. This is the general one file. Almost all of the Gale databases above the info bits are going to have a very similar interface to this. So you can search by publication, by subject, this is the topic finder. And what you do when you get in the topic finder is you search for whatever your keyword is. And there are two ways of visualizing this. There's what's called a tile or a wheel. I have it on the tile right now. The red is more and more are on there. The green is more of a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of situation. So World War II battle, you can see byline is one of them in the United States. World War II veteran and Americans. We'll click on story, and that takes us in deeper. Notice here one of these is the bulge, and there's the results for that specific topic. So a story about somebody telling you a story about the Battle of the Bulge. One of the things I like about the topic finder is that it helps you see the relationships between topics. So it's good, especially good for kids who are looking for a little bit deeper into the topic, or who need a little bit of help making a connection, like they're finding that one great article but they need 5 sources, and the topic finder can help them find what they need. Of course, the more specific you are in your search, the easier it's going to be to find what you need. And I have put in some really super specific weird things in here, and they've come up with something in the topic finder. So tell them to try as specific as they want, and then we can teach them how to back out. The wheel has the same color scheme thing, but it's just a little bit more visual right away. So this would have been the big red button on the tiles feature, and then these would be what was underneath it, and they are all clickable. So you can go to anything and it will click up and bring up those articles. When you click into an article that you like, these are all fairly standard across the bridges, or the databases. You have a translate button, that's your basic Google Translate, but it can be very helpful for ESL learners. You can do the font size, change the font size by clicking on the bigger or smaller. You can also listen to it.
World War II veteran remembers those who have kept this country safe for almost 250 years.
So it's not like an audiobook narrator, but I think it's a step above your, like the little Google add-on things that you can find. You can also send them to Google Drive, which will then have them sign into their own account. Same thing with the OneDrive, or you can email it, put the email address, and you want them to send it as full text for their own purposes. And then they can also download the article. Up here at the top, they can cite it. Those of you who have to teach citations, this is your best friend. Because it has MLA, APA, and Chicago. And if you're at all like me, I can never remember the details that differentiate them. You can also export the citation itself. So when I say save the article, I say save full text. This is why, because you can go in, take a second step, and also export the citation to Google Drive, OneDrive, or if you have Noodle Tools, EasyBib, RefWorks in your library or school. You can also select copy and paste, depending on how late they are with their project. Over here you can print, download, you can get the link if they want to permalink it. You can also highlight and add notes within the article. And that you just do it by highlighting it, different colors, notes. You can also define a word, like you say they don't know the word harrowing. They can go to define, and it's like what they're used to if they have a Kindle or something like that. It's that same functionality. Over on the right, there will be an Explore column that has specific articles, but also related subjects. This is going to be what shows up in your topic finder as well.
So do you have like a generic login you can use right now to follow along with you? Because I don't have my card.
Yeah, go ahead to PowerLibrary. I'll just type it in this bar. If you go to powerlibrary.org, now I learned about a great tool for this, but I didn't have a chance to get it downloaded. So if you go to powerlibrary.org and click on, you have to click on a database. Once you click on a database and log in, it keeps you logged in for the session. But you can use that number there, the 26340. Now there are. Oh yes, sorry. I have found that in the list of databases, there are still databases like Lista listed there. They are still functional, but to my knowledge, they're not technically supposed to still be there. So if they're not on those slides that I had, just beware they may randomly get yanked off. I'm not sure how they're still on there. They were supposed to be off, but I'm not going to tell you not to use them while they're here. Everybody have that number? Let me show you Power Search, what it looks like. So you'll see the Power Search has the same interface as all of the other databases. So I do recommend that we start, if you're doing a general, start with the Power Search. Any other databases you want me to put up on the screen that you're interested in, or anything you have any questions about? I can walk around too and ask more questions.
Can you go back to that wheel?
The wheel?
Where is that at?
That is in any of the Gale databases. Scroll down under Search Tools. It's called Topic Finder.
So that's in any Gale database, not just one file. Or not just one search.
That's in the Power Search, the general one file. It's in the majority of them. I won't say all of them, but it's in the majority of them. It's definitely in the general one file, the info track ones, the Power Search. Anything covered by Power Search is definitely going to have this. I found some of the specific topic collections don't always have the topic search, but most of them do.
Except for like the middle school search, the
Research in context.
research or Gale in context, yeah.
Yeah, Gale in context or research. They changed the names on them, but then they don't change them the whole way through.
Yeah.
Yeah, research in context. This is the middle school.
Research in context.
The middle school one has the visual tile.
The browse rather than.
Yeah, the browse rather than the top.
Yeah, I saw that. I just think.
On some of the databases, you may find that they have the topic finder linked, but I think they got rid of that with most of the updates in July. They seem to have gotten rid of that on most of the databases. questions. I'll do one last one with the Lit Finder. It is a little bit different. It does have the topic finder. It has the term frequency, so you can sort of see how frequently things are being searched. It's more of a curiosity thing for me, but you can search by person or by work. So you can search the name, or this is where you can search by gender. So I can search by Canadian females. Let's go to the 20th century. And we'll bring up a list of people that match those criteria. So again, this can be very helpful if you're looking for works by people of color, works by women, any sort of minority group, or if you're doing a country-based comparisons. In the testing I did, all of the resources are in English, even if they are Nigerian, so it seems like they either have to translate it or that person wrote in English. And again, with the work search, you can search by author publication here, so you could search for ballads of the 19th century. And you will occasionally get 0. And that's fine, because you can just hit the back button and try again. Any other questions on the databases? Any questions on PowerLibrary in general? Getting authenticated, anything like that? Do you all know if your schools have PowerLibrary on their websites? Public library? Yours has? Good. It's part of my job is to make sure all my libraries have it on their websites.
I love our PowerLibrary.
It is great. It is sadly not as well used as it should be, in my opinion.
I think the thing that we get most use out of is almost all of the articles can be translated and read aloud in a separate language.
Mm-hmm.
Not just Spanish. We have a lot of Spanish, but we also have a lot of other odd
Yes.
minority languages.
I love the I love the audio too.
Yeah.
And you can narrow the search. One of the filters you can do is you can check that it has to have the audio translation. We don't have, I am in a very, very rural area, so other languages aren't as important, but there are a lot of people with visual or focus issues, and the audio really helps with that.
As an elementary librarian, my teachers love booklets and booklets, and my kids, I work at a school for the deaf,
Mm-hmm.
so that bookflix that has the closed cap, it's not really closed caption,
Yes, the
but the
real-
videos have the words on the bottom is awesome for us.
And you
teachers
can turn those
miss it.
captions off.
Yeah, but I won't want to.
So they're
but
great.
yeah.
They're absolutely awesome if you're working with a really early language
Yeah.
learner. And trick for your back pocket, they are the royalty. They do have the public viewing rights in the database. So if you ever need a sub work, they can pop on that bookflix and pop up the video, and they're covered in copyright because it's already been purchased. But the public performance rights have been purchased through us with bookflix. So particularly with bookflix and TrueFlix, please use them. They are sort of on the cusp of getting cut. They're one of the ones that will get cut first, and because the usage is not as high as we would expect it to be.
The only thing with TrueFlix is the videos aren't captioned, but
Yes.
that's expensive, and I understand that, you know. But my kids still love them.
I'm not sure how familiar you all are with the way the Department of Ed is set up, but the Bureau of Commonwealth Libraries is a department within the Department of Education. So I'm sort of 3 steps down from Pedro Rivera. And we do have we've just gotten a school age advisor, library advisor. Her name is Carrie, and I want to say it's Hines, but don't quote me on the last name. So we'll be having a school age advisor for the first time in, I think, 12 years. our current youth services advisor in the library, the liaison to the K312 department, Susan Pannebaker, is retiring this month. So when she retires, they will fill the early learning. So we'll have 2 youth services advisors, but I'm hoping to see a lot more integration in the Department of Ed and some more cooperation initiatives that are going through both. There are a lot of initiatives that the library, your public library, does that don't get through to the schools, but we have a lot of resources beyond just the PowerLibrary, particularly for elementary, that can help with that. And that's how we got like the book Flicks and Truthflicks for Susan Pannebaker's baby to get them on there. So we really want to get these resources used because I don't want to go back to EBSCO. I would like to keep the Gale. They're so much better. Any other questions on that? Feel free to leave, or you can stay around for a little bit and I can answer any questions. My email and contact information is on the first slide. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you.